Hello everyone and welcome to POLYCOSM. Today we are starting a whole new project. This time we'll be tackling a creature design. As usual, we are starting with a brief that's detailed enough to guide our design process, but not too strict. We just want to leave some creative space for ourselves. Since our last project was a nautical weapon design, we thought it'd be a good idea to design a desert animal this time around. This animal would have evolved and adapted to live within a desert-like climate. It would have to deal with the harsh elements like heat and lack of water. We also wanted this creature to be a rodent-like animal, not some badass looking predator with giant claws and fangs or anything like that. It's just a very regular looking animal that relies on its speed and possibly its ability to camouflage to survive. And here's our mood board / reference board. I'm sure you all know this by now, that doing the visual research and creating a reference board is a good way to start your projects. This time around, I also wanted to talk about going the extra mile in your research to really learn about the subject matter you'll be working with. And what I mean by that is reading about it, watching documentaries, digging up any relevant studies and articles. These things can all really help you during your design process. Without getting too preachy, what I'm trying to say is don't just stop at doing a quick Google image search, but try and learn as much as you can by pushing your research further. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's get started. Alright, I got a blank canvas open, my reference board ready, a cup of coffee on hand, and I start sketching away. As I'm sketching, I'll be constantly referring to my reference board, but also I'm thinking about what I learned from my research. For example, I was reading about common morphology desert animals tend to have, such as slender body types, lean long legs that end with wide feet. Some, like desert foxes, have big ears that help them cool down their blood so they can regulate their body temperature, right? And there are these types of squirrels with big tails that they use to create shade for themselves. So there are all these different ideas that you can use, all these different things, but obviously you don't want to put all of this stuff into every single concept that you are trying to create. But in this initial sketching phase, you have this great opportunity to try all these different combinations, all these different proportions, making the creature top heavy, bottom heavy, making the legs really slender and long, and maybe not so slender in proportion to their body. Give them like a thin long tail or a big fluffy tail, big ears, or more like a lizard type of head. Don't be afraid to push things too far at this stage. You can always reel things back in. You're not spending too much time. You shouldn't be spending too much time on each individual sketch anyway, so you are not losing that much. At one point, one of the ideas we had was to make this creature a sort of a gliding animal, like a flying lemur. And these animals, they have really cool shapes in their bodies. When I was looking at the pictures of flying lemurs, I really liked how the skin that stretches from their limb to limb, from their front legs to their back legs and then to their tail. It just creates these really nice dynamic shapes. But later on I realized I actually wanted this concept that we are working on, this creature to be more of a ground animal that relies on its speed. So I got rid of that idea later in the process, but it's a good idea to try it out. I'm sure you've noticed that I'm really pushing the idea of long legs and big feet. Well, slender limbs of course help these animals regulate their body temperature, but also it gives a sense of lightness and speed to the design. Wide feet stops them from sinking into sand, but also from a shape design point of view, it creates this really nice thin to thick rhythm. Now, of course, I'm assuming most of you watching this are familiar with design principles like big, medium, small shapes, creating thin to thick or thick to thin rhythms. But if you aren't and would like us to make a video going over these fundamentals, just leave a comment below. It's actually been a long time for me since I've done a creature design, so this brief was a good opportunity to get back into it. I did quite enjoy it, even though I felt quite rusty at the beginning. After a few sketches, it all kind of started to come back to me, and I was in the flow, and I was just having a really good time creating all these different ideas, playing with all these different proportions. Some of the fundamentals are all the same, of course, but after you've been working on character designs strictly for a very long time, when all of a sudden you have to go back and work on a creature design, you have to start thinking a little bit differently, because now you are working with an animal, with a creature that is, like in this case, a quadruped. It walks around on all fours. So the anatomy you are working with, the body gesture, the overall gesture, the center of balance, all these things start to change. But other fundamentals such as shape language and certain design principles, they all stay the same. That's why I think it's very important to have a strong base of these fundamentals, because they can be applied to a lot of different design projects. At this stage, I feel like I'm getting close to finding a concept that reflects my initial intentions best. So you'll see me kitbashing from my own sketches a lot in this stage. I'm also constantly bringing new references into my board. Your research never is truly finished throughout a project. I did the same during our previous episode as well, although that time my reference board wasn't visible, so you guys didn't see it. Christina asked me to make sure this time around my reference board is on the screen at all times, and she just would not shut up about it, so eventually I caved in. Yeah, I really like this idea. The cactus-like growths that are on the back of the creature. I thought it would be quite cool to have a creature that sort of evolved to fake this cactus-like, sort of like I guess like a lizard-like shell on its back that also is similar to the texture of cacti. So he can blend in among groups of cacti in the desert and camouflage himself. So I really like that idea, and I try to incorporate that into some of these sketches as best as I can. If you aren't sure how many sketches like these you should make, the answer usually is as many as it takes. Unless you came up with a design that you really like and it meets your purposes pretty well, I think you should keep looking, especially when you are working on a personal project and there's no time pressure. Just keep pushing your ideas until you get to something that really speaks to you. There's no point in taking something into a more refined stage if you don't find the concept exciting as a rough sketch. And yeah, I think we are working towards a winner with this one. I quite like how everything came together with this last sketch. The shape language, all the different elements, the cactus-like back that helps this creature camouflage, his big fluffy tail that he probably uses to create shade for himself, his strong but still fast-looking legs, his hind legs, that probably give him that power to jump, to run, whatever he needs to do to run away and move quickly, and his arms that he uses to forage for food, maybe possibly to burrow underground so he can keep cool, his ears, his eyes. I think all those different elements came together in a very harmonious way. I'm happy with this final sketch and how it turned out. Alright everyone, thanks for watching the first part of our new episode, Xerocole. I should have said this at the beginning probably. Xerocole is just a fancy way of saying desert animal. And yeah, in the next part, I'll be going over this rough sketch. I'm going to refine it, I'm going to add more detail, and I'm going to work on the anatomy more. I will also go over how to study other animals' anatomy and how to apply what you have learned to your imaginary anatomy. If all of that sounds interesting to you, make sure to come back next week. Until then, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching once again, and I'll see you next week. Bye.